Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. It really means a lot that you've given us your time. Now, this is the introduction to the session. Today's session is actually a live recording of some time that Mark and I spent in a North London studio just last week. We were covering some of the core concepts that have been covered in the recently released Big Uncommon Thinking report, which was authored by Mark Schwakey. We wanted to give you this introduction really just to frame the conversation. Now, what's covered in that conversation that you're about to watch is really some of those core concepts and I want to hand over to Mark now to give you an insight to where they've been drawn from, why they're so important. And with that introduction, we'll get straight into the conversation.
So in this booklet that we've put together on Big Uncommon Thinking, it's a wraparound and a resume and almost a training manual for how we feel organizations need to behave in 2026. You've all got the same access to technology. AI is everywhere and we all know how we're using it. Those things are levelers. Marketing trends come and go. So at the moment, there's a really heavy focus on ICP and ABM and making sure that you've got your data right and making sure that you are really speaking with relevance to the customer. All of those things are things that you can do. But the things that will distinguish you and lift you above the noise are those extra bits that we used to call creativity in the marketing team. It's no longer the ownership and sole domain of the marketing team. It's on everybody to think differently about how to practice, about how to operate, about how to delight customers and clients, about how to go further and make budgets stretch further, about how to get more relevant and work the channels in a way that's going to get you noticed. We've got tons and tons of insight of our own and insight that we've found in others, not just our clients, but elsewhere in the market. We've packed it all into this booklet, James, and I'm really hoping that it's a valuable document for people to look over and help inform their company culture and practice next year.
A good friend of mine, she's writing her umpteenth book. She's disgustingly prolific and she does a load of learning courses for the industry and she's well connected. And whenever she does a book, she gets a group of people together and says, do you know anything about this? If so, hit me because I'm trying to do a research group and, get some qualitative stories to set my mind racing. So I was on this group last week. There was two sessions. One was, what marketing skills do you now need if at any stage of career, because there was a range of ages, what marketing skills do you need to be able to show if you're going to get a job these days? And whenever I say these days like that, I think of Stuart, what's his name? Not Herring, Stuart Lee, these days. Anyway, yeah. What skills you need to get a marketing job? The second session was hiring managers. What are you looking for? What really floats you? But like, what kind of people, skills, experiences, attitudes, characteristics, traits are you looking for? So I said, listen, I'd be interested in sitting on both. So I sat in on both. I'm sitting in the first one and I noticed a guy and I'm like, I don't know him, but I'm sure I recognize him. I looked at his name, I was like, oh man, we've been talking on LinkedIn for like 15 years. He's a really, really good guy. And my age, he's director of brand and marketing at a really, really big tech company. He's Stanford graduate. He's MBA. He's really qualified and seems to be on LinkedIn a lovely guy. So I sort of shot him a quick note to say, hey, we never actually met. Like, let's go for coffee sometime. And about 10 minutes later, he said, listen, this is actually a timely group for me. This was his first contribution to the group. It's a timely group for me because I got made redundant this morning. Sharp intake of breaths across the screen of different people's like, mate, I'm so sorry. You okay? Anything I can do? All that stuff. He said, I totally didn't see it come in. Growing a business that's already mature, having hit all targets, a great marketing team that's well respected across the industry, not just my company. And I said, what's their plan? What's their rationale? And he said, they look like they're going to reduce the whole thing to one or two mid-market mid-weights juniors and see if they can do the lot. I said, and how does that feel to you? Does that feel new? Does that feel alien? Or do you recognize that? Because back here with Orbital X, we're recognizing that a lot. We're working with it. We're working on it, right? And he said, no, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So there was that. And then during the hiring managers bit, I cited another guy that I talked to on LinkedIn. I've actually worked with him before. He's been a client. He's been a client when I was an agency. He's been a client when I was a consultant. He's always come to me for work, so I know him. He's always been a very, very senior guy, very enterprise sales, and a little bit kind of hard to connect with, but I do my very best, and he seems to get value from me. And he called me a couple of months ago and said, mate, I mean, with this new firm, we're very small, we're starting out, we want a marketer. I was hoping you might know somebody and connect me. I said, go on, tell me everything. What level of experience, what age, what salary, what do you want them doing? And he came with a long shopping list from all the tactics to deeply strategic across absolutely every channel and discipline there is. I went, mate, is this one person or is this a team, or is this person going to have access to partners and agencies? Have they got resource? Or no, we just want one person, salary 40K. I said, mate, you're having a laugh. This is a CMO job. That's a CMO job you've just described. And then you give me junior and you give me 40K. I said, I think we can get it for 40K. I said, listen, this is why B2B marketing is so often shit. And you're setting yourself up and the company for disappointment and pain further down the road. Not long down the road, actually. I'm not going to be able to recommend this to any. It's mad. It's absolutely mad. Now, as it happens, I'm working with this marketing resource group and we do X, Y, and Z. Do you want some help? But I'll tell you what, even if you do, that budget's not going to get you very, very much. You need to think about this, and the other. It's like, thanks, mate. I know where you are, but I reckon, we're out of London, so I reckon we can get it for 40K. And it's like the sheer sort of kind of part arrogance, but part kind of pithy, lackadaisical, casual, we'll get it. And he will. Somebody will take that job and it's going to be a nightmare for that person, a nightmare for the company. It was like everything. It was LinkedIn, it was email sequences, it was demand gen, it was customer journey, it was website, it was content, it was, it was strategic growth. This is where, and I know what your take is. Your take is that's happening and we're leaning into it. My take is before, possibly 5 years ago, as recent as 5 years ago, if I had a complaint about the way the rest of the business saw marketing, colouring in department, not particularly strategic, a cost, not an investment, at least they knew enough to hire a team. Now, as we know, that team is often one person, please God, hopefully senior person like many of our clients, CMO level. And then the question, how on earth do we run this company's marketing with just me? That's where your bit comes in, right?
Yeah, look, there's a lot there to chew on, Mark, because it is a complex period for the industry. I think if you was to take the example that you just gave of that entire shopping list that firm had built out and put a price tag on of 40,000, 50,000, it really doesn't matter.
Start us up.
What's in is that there's still only one person. There's still only one thing that they can tackle at a time. There's still all of these other stakeholders in the business, your friend, the individuals that have hired him, that are going to want to have an opinion on that. And what inevitably happens inside these businesses today, good ideas get shared and nothing gets done. Because just like building a piece of software, building a great marketing team is like building a prioritization list. What is going to give us the most amount of reach, the most amount of attention, the most amount of context? Because what we provided to the market is valuable, and it's valuable with a golden thread that links back to what we do. Marketing has always been about a vision and execution. And for a long, long time, we had a lot of time and space to execute. I'd love for you to give us some examples of what you used to experience as the editor of Marketing Week. How long were those campaigns in planning, and then how long were they executed for? Now we live in an environment in the B2B space where it's now. Marketing is an investment for the future. And when budgets are tight, people have very short-term views. We're being pushed from all places in the industry today to be more commercially minded. I think that translates into find the people that want to buy now. Which, by the way, every marketer loses sleep over. We want to find them just as much as everybody else. But what's changing is how quickly teams can legitimately go from vision, this is what we need to do, these are the people that we serve, this is the value we can create. If we put this out to market, it will legitimately help those people that we want to trust us, to come closer to us. And we need to get it out there in multiple forms on multiple channels so they realize that it's been created for them and they realize it's valuable to them. But the speed at which we can go from vision to execution is now the game. Because what is happening in businesses is good ideas are being shared, but it takes so long to get to the start line because we've got one individual that's maybe a bit inexperienced, maybe hasn't done this before, or maybe is just one person on their own trying to execute across copy, across data, across design, across video, and get it out. And let me tell you, what's happening is by the time it gets to the start line, someone with a say's got bored of it. I think we should be doing something else. And so we need to change the dynamic for marketers, lean teams that have great ideas and the speed at which they get them out so no one can get bored from it and we can all learn from it. And as we close that gap, that's what gives me hope for the marketing industry, because there are legitimate solutions out there in the market today that take something that was 3 months down to 7 days. And there are people that have got it down to 7 days that are thinking about ways that they can make it a day without losing that human-led, that undeniably human touch point of view that makes it valuable for the market that they serve. Big, important markets in B2B. People that take their professional careers extremely seriously, and they don't have time for things that aren't going to add value because we're all under pressure. But in marketing, we've got to speed up, we've got to be consistent, and we've got to be quality. And if we do that successfully, we're going to get more stuff out, and we're ultimately going to be a business that dominates and wins.
So you're extraordinarily positive about most things in life.
Yeah.
And whenever I speak to you, I get that jolt. But I think it's fair to say that when you and I have spoken about this, I've been really hesitant about the language and the notion of what's happening to marketing. And I need companies with our capability to help me get there. Let me explain. If I thought for a minute that with the emergence of AI and automation having ramped up to where it is and still evolving, still consolidating that market, and the brains and skills of people like you, and I thought that this was just an experiment on behalf of businesses to go, let's just see, not committing to a long tail of shrinkage in marketing. Let's just see. Let's just experiment how small we can get marketing and still do an amazing, just still hire and be great marketers. If I thought that that was an experiment, I would be well buoyed up by that. I'm reading this book, actually. The reason I kept looking down was because I struggle with her name, so forgive me if I get the pronunciation wrong, but her name's Anne-Laure Lecomte, and she is a neuroscientist who's written this amazing book this year called Tiny Experiments, and it's about...
But I follow her on X, followed her for a long time.
Right, so I've started signing up to her Nest Labs newsletter thing. Like, it's all about incremental, tiny experiments to feed your curiosity rather than old world defined goals that are rigid. If I thought this was an experiment, I'd be really, really excited. As it is, and I don't know if you agree with me, I don't think it's an experiment. I think it's the future. I think we are going that way, and businesses will figure out what they can trade off in order to get marketing as cheaply as possible. And that's why it's job of you and me and the rest of the team and others like us to commit to what you called human before, but I call craft, imagination, differentiation, commitment to differentiation and distinction, quality, big thinking. We call it big uncommon thinking at Orbital X. I'll tell you why. Because if we don't, and we just go for speed and we just go for efficiency and we forget about effectiveness, we'll all sound the same and marketing won't be doing its job. And that's when marketing will hit another milestone of shit, basically, and have to restructure and reinvent itself again. Right? So I am fully on board with I was in a position last year where I needed the job. I needed to work. And I would have taken most things in the position I was in, but I was scared of having a future thrust upon me by financial necessity that was just me doing some shit. But actually, in order to get where I am now, happier than I've ever been, really, I've found a place with a company that's not just exploiting or banking on a future of marketing shrinkage, but committed to making it work, making it real, and making it sound, and giving marketing, I think, the chance to see what it looks like at hyperspeed.
I want to challenge something that you just said, which was, I don't want it just to be speed and consistency. I want it to be effectiveness too. Now, there is no greater point of evidence of effectiveness than getting a campaign out to market, putting it out there. What do they think of that message? How do they respond to that? How can we improve on it? How can we sharpen the edges? And that is what speed and consistency is to me. But I omitted the point of efficiency, but we've got to get stuff out there. We don't improve anything. We don't get any reach. We don't get any awareness. We don't get any returns unless we get stuff out to market. And we now live in a B2C world where everybody is getting a hit of dopamine every 8 to 10 seconds on devices where they're scrolling all day long.
But that's because there's so much out there. To your point, getting stuff out there is not the problem, surely, with AI.
But arguably, the problems that we solve in B2B are the biggest problems in their life. Because if we can make a meaningful difference to how they perform, how they work through the pains and the problems that they suffer with on a daily basis, they go to bed thinking about, they wake up thinking about, we then legitimately start to give them a hero opportunity. We then start to give them the opportunity to become the expert internally on a problem, to take it to their colleagues and say, what do you think of this? I did some numbers. I used the cost of inaction report one of the suppliers put out to market. And it looks like we could actually save an awful lot and gain an awful lot by making this change. Should we take a closer look at it? You have to get these things out to market to see if that happens. Because if we can start to get this network effect inside these businesses that we exist to serve, everything down the line gets easier. If we send a cost of inaction report to who is ultimately our key user, our decision maker, and they say, no, I don't want a demo right now, that's not a loss. That's them going to go internally and do the work. But we had to create it in the first place.
But you're talking about the first question of marketing, which is getting stuff out there, right? And you actually said, and I'll challenge you back. I'll challenge you back and say, the greatest mark of effectiveness is not getting stuff out there. I can do that with a click of a button. I did it with Matilda yesterday. We put together a project for her homework on Aretha Franklin, and she thought it was going to take hours, and we did it in like an hour. It was great. It's not getting stuff out there. That's the hidden that's the first question that all of these bosses will ask of their marketing function. Just get stuff out there, experiment, throw stuff out there. We're saying nothing. We need stuff. What are campaigns, case studies, everything. Did I look a bit manic there? But the second hidden question that will always come back at you, right, how did it do? Where are the leads? And not even just where are the leads, where was the conversion? Where was the growth? What did you actually add this year? So in order to build upon your assertion that the tiny experiments and the getting stuff out there and the first dopamine hit and the being heard of and there still needs to be that marketing job, which is we contributed to growth and here's how. Let's look back. That ebook, that webinar, that seminar, that event, that post led to a relationship with that person that a year or 18 months later made us 6 figures, right? So this is where we have to join it up for me. We have to join it up with hyper speed and super positive and James Ford, let's get it out there with marketing still needs to be a business function. In the end, it'll always come back to bite you if you haven't visibly added something to the balance sheet, right?
Absolutely. So you need to find what's effective, what works. And our whole vision is to enable lean teams to dominate enterprise markets. And those lean teams are still experts. They are still hyper-talented people that then have the frameworks, the playbooks, the technology to execute on an idea to the standard that that brand and market deserves every single time, but it doesn't need to take as long as it once did. That's the change. And you still need to look inside your business and you need to find that subject matter expert because there will be one there. Otherwise, if there is not, you will not dominate your market. This is a whole singular thing that needs to occur. And you sit down with them and you say, what are these individuals that we serve struggling with today? What are the 5 things that they could do in the next 2 weeks to make that pain decrease? To have some clarity on the problem, to see a way through, to have something to communicate with their colleagues, to ultimately start to create a consensus that they should be speaking with us and we can help them even further. And when you take that, you leverage AI in the right places, you record that conversation because it's impossible, no matter how smart or experienced you are, for you to remember every single morsel of great value that that subject matter expert gave you. And then you make sure that you've got
body of resource on hand that can do all of the components to make that thing world class. Who's going to go and do the further research to validate the points that the subject matter expert said? Probably your copywriters. Who's then going to make sure that there's a visual narrative that's applied to that? It's going to be your graphic designer. Who's going to bring it to life in an animated video that starts to make these things pop and break the pattern of somebody scrolling on the social apps that they exist on every single day? It's not going to be one marketer for 40,000. It's not going to be one amazing industry expert for 200,000. You need to find a model which makes sense for a business to grow sustainably. And it doesn't make sense for a business to have a copywriter, a designer, a video specialist, all in-house, because you'll be burning 7 figures plus
that's
on an annual basis.
That's execution. That's before you've even done ICP, data, storyteller. That's executed, but it's not even follow-up. There's, BDs and all that stuff.
The value proposition that we've brought to market is we onboard 15 skill sets to your business for the price of one marketer. We've just listed off a handful of them. There's some other experts in there like integration specialist, business development resource that's calling these people to see who answer the phone, offer them the opportunity to benefit from this content that your business has created. But you need ultimately a framework that you can couple with the expertise and the value in your business and get things out to market and get them out there quickly so the market can tell you, was it good or bad? And when I say quickly, I don't mean with no design, with no copywriting finesse, with typos, we've rushed it. But don't let perfect be the enemy of good, because there are opportunities out there for smart businesses, lean teams that want to dominate an enterprise market to go and hire that individual with the vision who's able to brief properly, who's able to organize people properly, and partner with a business like ours and execute continuously, because it is that continuity, it is that consistency in message that in this busy world starts to make this audience think, I keep seeing them everywhere. I better pay a bit more attention. In fact, I'll take it upon myself to do my own research. Now I'm in control. This looks really interesting. Let me inquire. And I would hope that a business has all of those conversion tracking tags and technologies in place. But if they don't, they should look to a partner like us to make sure that they are in place. Because marketing is about being everywhere to the audience that we ultimately serve. And when they see us, we turn up with value. And when they engage, that gets credited back to marketing. And that can happen in both the micro and the macro. The micro, webinar registration, asset download. Even at points, clicking through to a blog and consuming it all, watching 95% of a video. But in the macro, pricing request for a meeting, request for a demo. But all of these things that we've described today is we are in a changing environment, but we've got to make the demands of the environment meet one another. And the demands of the environment is we need to spend less on marketing and output the same or more performance. So how do you do that intelligently? You don't do it by employing someone that turns up with a downloadable asset that they got off a LinkedIn post because they commented the word playbook and says that one email sequence is going to change your world. But you do it by going out to friends of yours, like you've described at the beginning of today's session, and say, where should we be taking our business? How tight is our positioning? How clear is our ICP? Once we've finessed that, how do we get in front of them? How do we make them see us every single time they open their computer?
So I want to.
That's where marketing works in the B2B world.
I want to talk about end to end, because I think lots of different people in the industry, while they're trying to crack all these questions, have a different view of end to end. So I noticed that MarketBridge just launched in the UK. Big. They call themselves, it's not particularly pretty as a descriptor, but they've stuck to it. They call themselves an agency / consultancy, but over in the States, they're very, very big. And they call themselves end to end. And they've just come over here and taken over April 6, which for, 15, 20 years, I think, has been up in St. Albans, I think, a very, very well-respected, creative B2B agency. And I think that acquisition is MarketBridge's first deployment in this market, right? This is MarketBridge Europe coming now and building from here. And I was watching their launch online last week, and they described their end-to-end offer. And they are huge, well-resourced, have some incredible clients, but their end-to-end offer kind of starts halfway through the process. So I think we've all got a very, very different view of what end-to-end means. If you're going to help a marketing team that's essentially one person, like our CMO friend who came over to the UK last week from Boston, where we have, basically she joined her company in July, and we are her marketing function, from everything from data, ICP, through positioning, storytelling, through execution, through to going back to her boardroom and saying, yeah, it's okay, we're doing it, we're going to do end of year. Like one person, CMO, but one person. In fact, she talked to us about being a one-person CMO and what that means on Do More With Less. It's coming out later in the month. Like, end-to-end means something very, very differently for us. And I want to talk to you about the example I told you about at the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned earlier, I used to be at Marketing Week magazine. Marketing Week and The Lawyer, two magazines, stablemates, were the joint jewels in the crown for independent publisher-central media. Marketing Week was always, the king and queen. The Lawyer really served its market well. They were two of 10 brands, right? And Centaur's just done this strategic review, selling off all its big assets, the Marketing Week, the Mark Ritson Mini MBA, and all of it's breaking up itself as a company and shareholder value, right? Returning money. And it's doing these disposals bit by bit. And last week, two things happened. One, the completion of the Lawyer deal that was touted in, I think, the summer. It went to a private equity-owned legal thing for £43 million. 43 million quid, 16 times operating profit. At the same time that deal was being completed, last Thursday, they announced the sale of Marketing Week, the jewel in the crown, a business super brand, officially. Always 47 years worth, one of the UK's top business weeklies, most read. After The Economist, there was very little else, right? It went for 3.9 million quid in a bargain bundle with another 40-year-old heavy heritage title, Creative Review for designers and creative agencies, and the Festival of Marketing. So packaged in 3.9 million quid. The thought I did some maths, I looked at the interims, I did as best I could, and I estimate that generously four times its operating profit. So 4 times its operating profit, 16 times operating profit. When I was editor, we had everything going for us. I was brought in 2009 to 2012. The guy before me was 20 years in hot seat. My brief was very, very clear. We need to change our mix of revenues from purely classified ads to digital experience and events as well. Like, we need to mix it up, right? And we did it. And by the time I left in 2012, we were slightly ahead of where B2B publishing was as a whole in terms of that great mix of revenues. What's made it lose its value so much? Well, I had a conversation or two yesterday with some old colleagues. I was trying to figure it out. And here's the piece that takes me back to the end-to-end story. The Lawyer, certainly post-COVID, but even before that, banked all of its revenue streams on data, on knowledge. It had unrivaled and unequaled and uncatchable data sets on the two biggest parts of that market, so corporate and litigation. And it had all the data you needed on personalities and past, everyone, contacts coming out. Your Marketing Week had banked on pay for the content. So if you've got like 3 or 4 different revenue streams available to you, you've got like partnerships, sponsorships, you've got marketing services, how do I connect marketing services with the CMOs they want? So is it one-to-ones? Is it online communities, whatever? How do they get access? Is it subscriptions? There's a number of different revenues. In the age of AI emerging, they couldn't have seen what's happening now, but in the age of AI emerging down the line, they went for, our content's going to be premium, so you're going to pay for it. Well, now AI's wiped that out, right? So the data sets one, and this is where I think the opportunity is. So what you were describing before, our model, speed, the resource, the delivery, is today's reason to buy an agency, right? But tomorrow's reason to buy an agency, tomorrow's reason to partner with an agency, hire a partner, if you're going to do what you need to do, is it needs to genuinely be end-to-end. So you work your way back from growth on the balance sheet and on the annual report and in the financial results, back to superb BD follow-up back through. The leads came because we did the beautiful delivery, because there was only one person and they needed. Go further back, we're building a business on data. So tomorrow's Orbital X will look like what? Tell me what the vision is. Like, what are you building? What are you and Kevin and Miles putting together that means we're taking agencies into a new elevated area?
So you told me about the Lawyer and Marketing Week a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
And so when I did my own research and I landed on exactly the same place, the Lawyer had done an incredible job of aggregating this publicly available data and ultimately selling it at a premium subscription. And that was what allowed that 16 times multiple to become the reality for that business. And I've hinted at it a few times today through the discussion, is we need to define our audience. We need to define our market. And something that we've always been emphatic about, Orbital in its original form was a data research company, helping businesses build the best possible ICP data set of anybody in their marketplace. Who are the companies that absolutely should be your customer? And who are the people within those companies that ultimately need to know about what we do, the value that we bring? And today we always start out with our customers by researching that to the nth degree to fulfill that problem.
How does it work? Tell me how it works. What do we bring to our clients in terms of that data set?
I was just about to, Mark. Thanks very much for the...
I was trying to get some words in, mate.
Yeah, honestly, your word count for the session, you've got to be beating me.
You'll see. I'm going to fucking put that to ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Let's ask number 5. Let's get ChatGPT 5.
Well, how do we do it? We sit down and we have business conversations with the individuals that know best. Who are your customers today? Where is this pain most acute? Where is the market heading today that it means that we can go and find the businesses that have to deploy capital to meet the growth opportunities and trajectories that they are on? We want to find that early majority of the market. And so we go through a process to define that with our customers and go out and research it and build the contacts that go into that data set. Now, we have this saying that we want to be narrow enough to be relevant, but wide enough to achieve your goals. And we sit with our customers and understand where they are in their growth journey. What do we need to achieve next? And how big does that audience need to be? How relevant can we be for us to go out and ultimately dominate this market as the lean team that we are? And we very much see ourselves as part of their team, not an agency, because these individuals in our organization that are their copywriter, that are their designer, are at their disposal. They can use them to move things forward and ultimately deliver to the market. But once we have that audience, we then build the story, build the value like we talked about today, and then we distribute it through a variety of different formats and styles and channels to reach these individuals where they are, meet them where they are. Everything that runs through what we've just said starts with the data. And we always partner with businesses that are passionate about dominating their market. Because if they don't want to dominate their market, in today's world, with the level of competitiveness and the drops in demand that we've seen, they've already lost. And we take that to market with some really intelligent tools throughout. But where we're taking it is starting to build a store of value, a store of data for our customers to now allow our service to be completely technology enabled. And so that data set that we research, we keep track of it. The technology will let you know when they may have changed roles, when they have declared that something has changed in their world, which could be a signal to your business. It becomes intelligent. We then start to create content through the system. What is the data telling us? What's our audience data telling us that we can then start to create content that's going to perform better than last time? We start to bring intelligence into the system itself, which means that we can execute faster, which means we can optimize faster as a lean team. And then we can distribute across our own channels, this amazing database that we now have, both email, calling, our organic social reach that we may have built up until this point, but also earned and paid. Being able to take this amazing content and see if trade publications want to talk about it too, because it is a new point of view, because it is looking at the market in an exciting and opportunistic light, or something that they all need to be made aware of. And then the paid opportunity as well. Technologies like LinkedIn, like Meta, once you have an audience, allow you to build a matched audience. So you can pay to guarantee that your content is going to reach the people that it's been created for. And when you start to collect all of that performance data from the email that was opened, what did the banner look like? What did the copy look like? What did the phone call? How did the phone call go? Did they seem happy to hear from us, sad to hear from us? And that feeds back into the data layer. Everything becomes more intelligent. Everything becomes better distributed, and performance starts to get better and better over time. And when you couple an intelligent solution like that with an experienced marketer with a can-do attitude that understands that market and that audience better than they know themselves, market domination starts to happen.
So is that,
And that's what we're building for.
is that app, is that data, that Orbital X platform, it's data on contacts and movements and who they are and what they do and what they know and what they like and what they've done before and what worked. But it's also the data on content that worked per industry and per individual.
Everything starts at the individual. But because all of the data is so well structured, we can then start to gain insights at the account level, the industry level.
So industry, construction, legal, health.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we can start to look intelligently at the data. And quite honestly, with where the world has got to with the help of AI, it will start to create curated markets of people that are of the highest likelihood to be interested in your services and want to buy.
Is that what you think agencies need to do now? Do we need to add this level of informed, intelligent technology and scalability to great people and ideas and, delivery?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Teams today create an enormous amount of data that they just dispose of.
Yeah.
All we seem to collect is the point of conversion. How many meetings did we book? How many webinar registrations did we generate? But there are breadcrumbs throughout that entire journey, through that entire marketing program, which will inform us, which will teach us, which allow us to make every single component better. As marketers, we should stop being happy with disposing of so much of the value we create. And we should find solutions like our data platform that starts to collect it and allows us to benefit from it in an intelligent way without losing that subject matter expertise, that undeniably human point of view, and where we can, proprietary data that's undeniably yours, that makes your perspective so much more robust and resilient than any other player out there. But you need systems and you need services that work together to make that happen. And that's ultimately what Orbital X has been building for the last 2 years. And with the help of the data platform, which will harness all of that data that has been generated for our customers, it's going to get even better. And that's what's so exciting about it. We are at an inflection point. Skilled, talented marketers that know where a business should go will be able to demonstrably prove that that was the right place for it to go because they could execute fast enough for the whole team to go, that's great.
And who's the user 5 years from now? Is it always a CMO? Is it that middle manager for 40K that my sales director fellow was talking about? Who's the user of that marketing platform that enables all that scale?
It's a great question, Mark. And I hate to discriminate against anybody based on level of experience or time in seat. I'm a huge advocate for people that believe in doing, that believe in listening intently to what the market is saying, listening intently to the subject matter experts in their business, and more than anything, listening intently to their customers. What are the pains and problems that we solve? How do we bundle this up and get it out to the market so they can see that we wake up worrying about their problems? Because when people feel that, you win. And the person in seat that's executing on that can either be a very intelligent individual that's keen to learn, or it can be the most experienced marketer that's applying what's worked for them in the past, just in much shorter time frames to just as much effectiveness.
Nice.
And that's what's going to win.
Nice. Cheers, James.
Thank you, Mark.